Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card uses the Whole Herd set by My Favorite Things. I love this. I'm using the cow, the chicken, the pig, and some of the chicks. I'm also using the Wonky Windows die set. This is a really cool set and they fit inside each other. And I have the Grassy Fields die by My Favorite Things as well. So all My Favorite Things products. So I'm going to start off by taking my Wonky Windows, and there's actually a right angle, so a straight edge on one of the corners. So I'm going to take that edge and line it up with my Neenah Solar White cardstock in the upper left hand corner, and this is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'll run that through my Big Shot. I'll pop out the middle, and you'll see that it leaves some stitching on the outside, which is really cool. And then I'm going to take that piece that popped out, and I'm going to die cut that with the smaller box. So it fits right inside, so I'm going to make sure it's right in the middle, and I'll run that through the Big Shot. So when it comes out, you'll see that it has stitching on the outside as well, but now it's in the middle because I had that first die cut from the outside one. So this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to line it up here. There's a way to line it up so that the edges fit together and you get a little gap in between. So I'm going to move on to my animals. I'm going to stamp them all at the same time here in Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then I'm going to have my chick over here. I'm just going to do 3 of those in a row. I'm just randomly stamping them because I'm going to color them and cut them out. I'm going to start off with my cow. I'm using E02 and E00. So the first color is E02, and now I'm filling the rest in with E00. So I liked this, but I wanted it to be a little more pink, so I took RV00, which is a very light pink color, and I went over the whole thing, and it just added a little touch of pink to it. I'm just going to speed through the rest of this coloring, and I'll be back. I don't know if you noticed, but my black started seeping over into my peach and pink, and I wasn't too happy about that. I'm going to try to fix it. I'm going to use my E02, and when I first started, it looked like it was a mistake, and I'm like, alright, I'll just keep going. So I just kept coloring and coloring back and forth and trying to push the color over, and I think I pushed a little bit of it over, but not a lot. I think what I should have done was let the peach pink dry before I colored with the black, and I think it would have prevented those 2 colors from mixing together. But anyway, I wasn't about to start over, so I just went with it. And I took my Copic liner to just highlight the eyes a little bit, which faded a little bit from the coloring. And then, I don't know if you noticed also, but I colored inside the nose of the cow, so I just went over it with a white gel pen to make it white again. This set has matching dies, but I don't have them, so I'm just going to cut them out with a scissor. I forgot a couple of things. I forgot the horns on the cow, so I colored those in. And then I wanted his body to be white, but I needed a little bit of shading, so I added some C1. And then I took my 0 colorless blender and I just blended the edge of that, so it blended right to the edge of the cow. Now I'm going to cut my grass. I have two dies here which layer. I'm going to cut the back one with Garden Green and the front one with Wild Wasabi. Those two colors go nicely together by Stampin' Up. I'm going to adhere my Wild Wasabi to the front. So I'm just going to add some ATG tape runner to the Garden Green, and then I'll place my Wild Wasabi on top of that. I put some of the pieces of the card together so that I could see where I wanted my grass to lay, and I took a pencil and drew a little mark on the inside corner, the left and the right on the bottom, so I knew where to trim out my grass. I'm going to trim it out just on the outside of those marks to make it smaller. I decided to add a little bit of a blue sky behind the cow, so I'm going to take my panel with the window, and then I'll mark the top corners, and that's where I need to make sure that the sky kind of starts in my window. I'm using Broken China Distress ink. It's one of my favorite blues, and I'm using a sponge dauber to very lightly and carefully ink up some of the space inside those two marks that I made. And if it's a little cloudy or, you know, kind of splotchy, it's okay because it's supposed to be the sky. Next, it's time to adhere my pig and my chicken. I want them to be sort of peering out of this window. So I'm going to estimate where my pig needs to be, and then I'll put some two-way glue pen on the back of the frame, and then I'll place the frame on top of the pig. And that's the best way to get it where you want it. And this glue adheres really quickly. I'll do the same thing with the chicken. Sort of, I want him coming in from the side, so I'll figure out where he needs to be. And then I'll flip it over, add my two-way glue, and then I'll place it right on top of the chicken where I want him to appear. And all I have to do is press down a little bit and it'll stick. Now I'm going to adhere my window panel to my card base. I'm going to take my Scotch foam tape, which is about 1/2 inch wide, and I'll cut it in half. I do this all the time just because I need it a little thinner. And I'm going to place it on top of my grass using those pencil marks as a guide. And it'll stick popped up onto that grass. And then I can take that panel and adhere it to my card base. I'm going to take my next window and cover the whole thing with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And then when I'm going to lay it here to see which dimensionals need doubling up. So because I popped up that window panel, I'm going to need to pop it up twice in this spot so that I get my second window here that I'm adhering one layer higher than the window panel that I popped up using the Scotch foam tape. So I'm going to double up those two dimensionals, and then I'll remove all the others, and I'll line it up so that the bottom is pretty much flat and that it angles up equally with the window that I've cut. I'll take my ATG tape runner because I want the cow to be flat against the grass because he's inside the window. And then I took a C1 Copic marker and just added a little bit of shadowing so it grounded the cow and it didn't look like he was sort of floating in the middle of nowhere. So he's actually in the grass. After all this work, I definitely have to use the MISTI to make sure I don't screw up my sentiment here. So I'm going to line it up on the bottom right against that frame, and I'm going to ink it up with some VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and then I'll stamp it down. And that way, if I don't get a crisp image, I can always stamp it again. I won't have to start over on that panel. And it always comes out great with the VersaFine ink. I always get a good image. Now for my little chicks, I'm going to use 1/4 of one of those Stampin' Up! Dimensionals and put them on the frame. So I've got two that are on the panel, but then this one I'm going to have to double up for the same reason I doubled up that window, is because I've already popped up that first window, so now I've got to pop this one up twice. So that's why I've got 2 layers of this dimensional. So I'm going to have him walking down at the top here, and then I'm going to add feet since I cut them off when I trim them out. And that's the card for today. Super cute. I love these animals. I hope you enjoyed them, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.